Jack was not prepared for the stammering Hareen to look like she was about to melt when he told her that. And right now it looked like she might be a bit on the brink of cracking. Now, Jack wasn't a guy who slept around a lot before the invasion. He still wasn't a guy who slept around a lot after either, considering that his 8.5-foot tall Amazon of a girlfriend typically was ready and willing. But he found Hareen to be a cutie pie, and it really was hurting his heartstrings something fierce to see her looking like she was about to cry. See, some folks, 'cause they're scared blind idiots without a lick of sense in their head, or a cock that works properly, would be all, hew, fucking perps deserve it. But as Jack, who is neither a cockless woman hater or a senseless violence boner, being a human man with no real reason to dislike the woman, it was just the feeling of seeing someone who you consider weaker than you, despite Hareen beating him in arm wrestling more than a few times, in a position of extreme duress. So he tried to get up, realized that his legs were still chained to the chair, and promptly tripped forward, slamming his face into the edge of the table with a rather meaty thud before falling into the floor in a heap. Hareen hadn't been fast enough. Most human wouldn't be either. Maybe Rakari would be. And thus that led to the next bit of the interrogation being postponed due to accidental self-injury via table. Of course, Jack's day's delirium was only short-lived, and he found a very concerned-looking Hareen looking over him, and her face being super close. Well, as soon as he felt that he could move just a little bit, he decided to take the initiative that he knew Shivanti men didn't have. He leaned up and kissed the daft woman with enough force to bang their foreheads together like a couple of awkward virgins. But, luckily for him, the Shivanti have tougher heads and a bit more pain tolerance than most human women. So, instead of being two idiots holding their heads in pain, it was two idiots holding their faces together with their lips locked in place, breathing harshly through the nose, and then, well, you gotta pull away at some point, and it wasn't Jack that did so. Poor Hareen was flustered a bright, near incandescent blue as she sat back, only to realize she'd almost been saddling the man, and right now she was sitting on his thighs. That brought an unladylike squeak from the agent as she realized that he was not telling her to get off him. Also likely due to the concussion he had given himself because of what he did seem out of it, giggling to himself about how she tasted just like he thought she would, or something. Poor Jack. She really needed to get him to medical, so getting up she plugged the intercom and spoke. I need someone to come down to interrogation room D. The subject has, in fact, actually injured himself. Waking up after a concussion is some bullshit, let me tell you that. After you scramble your brain like that, the dreams are funky. You wake up if you're lucky, and the time is just fucking ducky. But here I am, laying in the infirmary with the medico giving Hareen a nice and lengthy thrashing about how she shouldn't boy bash and get away with it, and all sorts of other nasty shit that I don't really understand. Man, I really wish I had my towel. But hey, the one they provided works just fine. So, of course, I sit up and cough loudly. The medico, her name is Jilan or Jiloon, I don't know. I'd seen her a few times due to the fact that the Shivanti cuisine causes some issues. But she turns around and gives me a big old measuring look. Now, I'm a bit out of shape, scruffy, and I just busted my face up pretty bad, but I could tell she weren't used to treating guys still. So I spoke right up. Yeah, Jilly, you know that Harry there doesn't bash guys. That was Tanny who did that, and she still came out worse for wear. Jilly always had an eye roll ready for me. Apparently I was too feminine for her taste. I always had a big old giggle about that one. But giving the lady the biggest grin I could, Nah, see, I was about to trample all over Harry's feminine pride because she looked like she needed a damn hug. This entire place is just a shit show and she is stressed. So, I got up, forgot my feet were locked because you gals loved the entire lock him in a chair thing, and smacked myself silly on the table. I then wiggled my eyebrows seductively at Harry. I got to kiss the cute purple palooka too.
What in the deep is a palooka?
Ah, well. And as I began to explain, I could see my audience was already lost. This was gonna take a fair bit.